All right, once you have your good drawing for your mask done, like I have my 2 drawings done, but I'm going to pick this game face one that I thought would be kind of fun to do. With your clay, you need to take your clay and you have to wedge your clay. So I'm pushing and I'm turning, pushing, turning. You may need to stand up so you can lean into it. We wedge the clay so that we get all the air bubbles out. Because if you have any type of air bubbles trapped in there, what's going to happen is it's going to explode in the kiln, which isn't good, and your project's done. So push, turn, push, turn. You're going to need one of these mask shapes, but what I want you to do, I've got a roll of paper towel here, is I'm going to take some of this paper towel off, and I want you to wad it up and put it underneath here. So when I flip it over, that's just going to help support it because this is like a paper pulp mask. And when anything paper gets wet, it tends to want to sag. So if we have that extra support under there, it'll help a little bit. So now I'm ready. I'm going to set this off to the side a little bit to roll this out. So I'm going to take a rolling pin and push and turn and roll this out into what's called a slab. And if you're at home and you don't have a rolling pin, last trimester for when we were online during 3rd trimester, I used, because I was kind of practicing what kids could use at home, and a glass worked really good. So if at home I didn't have a rolling pin, so I used a glass, and I just used it to roll out that slab. So right down here, it's a little bit thicker, so I'm going to push and roll that area, and then just kind of rolling it out. You don't want to get this too thin, because if it's too thin, it's going to crack and break on you. It should be about the thickness of your thumb. So kind of keep that in mind, because too thin, it's going to crack and break on you, and then you're going to be sad because it's not working. So keep in mind about the thickness of your thumb. So I'm getting pretty close. Right up here, it's a little bit thick, so I'm going to roll that out a little bit. All right, this is about good. So I'm going to lift it up, slide my mask shape underneath it, and put this over the top. So now I'm going to take my hands kind of like this and push around the shape to get that head shape. All right, then the next step, this is called a fettling knife. I used when I was at home teaching virtual, just a plain old table butter knife, and it worked fine. I'm going to cut around the edges here. And then take off this extra stuff. Okay, then we can kind of see here, it needs to be smoothed out a little bit. So all I'm doing is going like this with my fingers, and I'm going to smooth that out, but I'm going to put it back down because it's easier while it's sitting. So I'm just going to smooth that all the way around. part of your craftsmanship grade is getting everything smooth. So that's really important. You can see how I'm just doing that with my finger. All right, so now I'm ready to start to sculpt some of these shapes here that I have in my drawing. And I'm going to start with the nose because I want to show you something about that. So if you've ever seen the sari piece, it's three-dimensional. So I'm actually going to literally sculpt a piece that looks like that sari piece. So I'm pinching kind of my extra clay that I had left over, and I'm going to make that sari piece here. So all I'm doing is kind of pinching to make that shape. Because that bottom is kind of circular. Then the top is more circular, but it's a little bit skinnier, so I'm just going to pinch this area. So from the top view here, you guys can kind of see this literally is like if I was at the board game, like the piece that I would use for sari. Well, this is going to be hard to attach on because it's not a lot of surface area to attach this on. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you here. Let me just kind of finish this, getting this. I'm a little particular about this. So I've got this now, and I'm going to take that fettling knife, and I'm going to cut it in half. So I'm going to set it on my table here. Cut that in half. And the reason that I'm going to do that is then I have a flat side here that I can attach on, but it still looks three-dimensional. Okay, so I kind of eyeball where it needs to go. All right, that looks good. So then the next thing, I have a needle tool, like a toothpick at home will work, a fork at home will work. I'm going to score the area that I'm going to attach. So scoring is making like tic-tac-toe marks, hashtags, and I'm also going to score the area where I'm going to attach it. And then I need to take some slip. So slip is a mixture of clay and water. And you can make your own slip. If the slip starts to get dry, you just add water to it. And it acts like a glue. So I'm going to put some of that slip down. And then I'm going to put my piece down. And I'm not completely done yet because it has a seam here. Let me see if I can show you. Right here, you can see it. There's like a gap. Well, I need to seal that so it looks like it's all one piece. So I'm going to take, this is called a modeling tool. And sometimes your finger will work fine. And all I'm going to do is seal that edge all the way around that sari piece that I added. So notice I'm spinning this mask. It happens to be upside down right now because I'm working on this top part of the sari piece, sealing that edge. So now let me show you. Oops, I missed a spot here. So now as you look at it, you can see that edge is sealed. There's no gap there anymore. Okay. And there's a spot there I missed, so I'm going to get that. So score, slip, seal. So now I can move on to, if I wanted to make, let me make that checker piece for the side of the eye here. And all I'm doing is rolling like a little ball of clay here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten that piece Okay, and it's getting a little dry right there, so all I'm going to do is kind of smooth that together. And I want to add as much detail and design to this to make it look realistic. So the edges are flat, so I'm going to kind of tap on the table to get those edges more flat all the way around for that checker piece. So I know some of you have probably played checkers before, so you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so now I have, you can see that, like that flat edge. But checkers have a design on them. So I have this, it's called a loop tool. And I like this small loop tool with a triangle on it because I use this end to carve out areas and do detail. So that checker piece, first of all, it's dug out a little bit. So I'm gonna dig out a little bit of this piece, like that center part. Okay, then I'm going to smooth that over. But it also has a design in that center, like it's like a spiral design once it's kind of dug out here. So now I'm going to take that loop tool again and using this edge right here of the loop tool, I'm going to turn this and make that spiral design. Okay, it also has there's divots in the side here. So I'm just pushing down with that loop tool. The more detail you have in this, guess what? The better grade you're going to get. Okay, and then the sides have that divot too, so I'm going to extend that down all the way around. Notice, let me see if I can hold it still enough. There's these little schniblets of clay. You want to kind of get those out of there because that's your craftsmanship grade. And then once I have this finished, just like before, we're going to score this, slip, seal it all the way around. So you're going to make all your objects like that. Score, slip, seal. Be careful when you're trying to add hair and ears. You don't want it to hang off too much. Because if it's hanging off too much off the side, like you don't want to attach an ear like this. You'd want to put it partially on the mask here so that it would stick. Just keep that in mind because if you try to attach it here, it's going to fall off once it starts to dry. So my last step here is I'm going to score this. Oops, I was going to put that over on this side, so I'll score here. And slip, put her down, and seal. Make sure you do that. Score, slip, and seal. Do not skip the sealing part. Do not skip the scoring part. Because what will happen when it dries, if you skip that, it'll fall off. And then your teacher, me, can see if there's any hashtag or score marks. And if there isn't, I'll know you didn't score. So just do it correctly and your project will work a lot better. So that's how you start making all the different pieces. They should be 3D, okay? So if you had a soccer ball, you would make the ball round and cut it in half. You wouldn't make it look like a cookie cutter. So keep that in mind.